I will turn it over to an incredible and loyal Fund Her supporter and leader, a nationally renowned lawyer, someone who understands the importance of this work from personal experience. She's not only a past president of the American Association of Justice, our national trial lawyer organization, but she was also the 1982 Democratic nominee for governor of Iowa. So please join me in welcoming the phenomenal Roxanne Conlon.
Valerie, thank you very much. I'm so delighted to be with all of you on this incredibly historic day. I said, I hope I wouldn't cry. I have used up boxes of Kleenex. I have watched every minute, sometimes 2 or 3 times. Kamala Harris is an icon, but she never fails to acknowledge that she stands on the shoulders of many other Black women, including the amazing Shirley Chisholm, who was the first woman and the first woman of color to run for president of the United States in 1972. In 1972, I was a 28-year-old feminist political activist, and I learned that she was running, and I thought it was a great idea, and I called her on the phone and spoke to her directly, and I said, I'm in Iowa, I want to help you, and I can get other people to help you too. I'm in her book, On Bought and Unbossed. My name is not spelled correctly, but I knew it was me. And indeed, I could get other people. We went into the state convention of Iowa in June of 1972 with 144 committed Democratic activists for Shirley Chisholm. And we were able to bargain that into 4 representatives at the Miami convention. Her path-breaking effort helped so many women, including, of course, Hillary Clinton, and brings us to today when Kamala will accept the nomination. And on Tuesday, November 5th, she will become president of the United States. And as Valerie mentioned, I have been a candidate myself, though not a successful one. In 1982, I ran for governor of the state of Iowa on the Democratic ticket against 3 much older, much wiser male candidates, and I beat them by more than 50%. I was 37 years old. I went on to lose to the Republican candidate who outspent me 4 times to 1. And it was more of a cause than a campaign. Every day when I ran, people talked about how weird it was, how inappropriate it was for me to be a candidate for governor of the state of Iowa, how strange it was, at least 10 times a day, and that continued throughout the campaign. And then in 1992, I did another rather bizarre thing. I became the first woman to be ever the president of the Association of Trial Lawyers of America, now known as the American Association for Justice. As Valerie mentioned, that is the plaintiff's trial lawyer organization. It is my honor to introduce you to my dear friend and colleague, Laurie Andrus, who joins us from Chicago. Oh God, I wish I were there with you, though I would have to be being scooped up off the floor every night. She is an amazing trial lawyer and has also been a leader in the fight for equal pay. You all know this. Equal pay for equal work was enshrined in the law in 1964. I think that was 60 years ago. I don't actually do numbers, that's why I became a trial lawyer. But it's a long time ago. But right today in my office, I have 2 equal pay cases. And Laurie, I think you have even more because you do, one of your specialties is class actions. Some of which all of you have no doubt heard of them. I only am going to choose to mention a few of the class actions in which Laura has been directly involved. Roundup, you all know about Roundup, but here are some ones that directly affect women. Sure birth control devices, Yaz and Yasmin, and Ortho Evra. For a complete biography, consult her law firm web page. Again, I have to be selective because she has received so many honors and awards. I just choose the ones that I particularly like. She was a finalist for the California Consumer Attorney of the Year in recognition of her wonderful work on behalf of female attorney employees of Farmers Insurance who were, as you will not be surprised to learn, not being paid equally to male attorney employees of Farmers Insurance. She was also recognized as one of the top 50 Northern California super lawyers, and the National Law Journal, the Bible of trial lawyers, named her one of the nation's 75 outstanding women lawyers. She is often the subject of news media reports on her very many marvelous cases. She is devoted to diversifying leadership in every endeavor, including in class actions, where steering committees are terribly important. Steering committees tell all other lawyers what to do and what not to do in class actions. And Lori has been a groundbreaking person to encourage other women attorneys to get on and stay on the steering committees for these class actions. She is, of course, also committed to diversifying public office, including state offices and legislatures. And she is a long time committed feminist. And again, my very, very dear friend, Lori Andrus.
Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, Valerie and Hallie, and everyone on here. I've got some good friends on here, and I know how hard y'all are working to help make the world a more equitable place. Hallie, you have your hand raised. Do you need to jump in? No. Okay, great. We absolutely get a boost from those who have come before us. And Roxanne is one who came literally before me to the post that I hold. And Roxanne has done it, like all of us, backwards and in high heels. And I mean that literally, because Roxanne is also like an acclaimed ballroom dancer. So everyone on this panel has multiple talents. And that's another one that Roxanne and I share. Growing up in Louisiana, I was Petite Miss Dance of Louisiana and then Junior Miss Dance of Louisiana. So we all have our loves outside of the law, and I hope each of you will nourish those loves. But within the courtroom, we have to acknowledge that we're still not treated as equals. I mean, how many people here have been mistaken for the court reporter? I know it continues to happen to me on a regular basis, and court reporters are hardworking professionals. I'd be proud to be among them. But the assumptions about women and women lawyers continue to follow us around. And as Roxanne mentioned, I've worked on cases involving women's health, where our bodies are experimented on by the pharmaceutical industry and medical device industry. And there's not sufficient oversight. There's not sufficient testing. We still have a long way to go in that arena. We also, of course, are treated like cheap labor. And if they can pay a woman slightly less, they will. And if they can pay her a lot less, they will. And so Roxanne's right. That is one of my passions. And I have had some success in holding corporations accountable when they're not examining their bias and correcting it, because it seeps in every single year. Even the companies who want to do better know they have to measure it and carefully fight for it every year. And so I assume that everyone on this call, you're on this call because you want to see a more equitable world. And that means voting, but not just voting. It also means volunteering on campaigns, knocking on doors, sending text messages, making phone calls. And I know it's true that we can't just be on social media, but we also have to be on social media, because that is where a whole lot of people get their information and their influence. They are on TikTok and they are not necessarily listening to the nightly news. So spread the word about fellow women who are running, and in your own community, even if there's not women running, you know, our role as civic participants is vital these days as attorneys, because we are thought leaders and we are looked up to. And right now, you know, the former occupier of the White House does not believe in the rule of law. And, you know, with President Harris following President Biden, we're going to continue to have diverse federal judges put into place. And that's so important for everything that we hold dear. I want to mention President Biden's track record on judges for a minute, because one of the things I do as president of the American Association for Justice is to monitor that and to try to help women get on the bench, women and diverse individuals. So in addition to Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, President Biden has put 27% of his appointees are Black, 15% Latinx, 14% Asian, 1% Native American, 5% multiracial background, and 11 openly LGBT plus individuals on the federal bench. That's tremendous progress, and we need to continue it. Our bench is very deep. This is not just at the federal level, but we've got incredible women in office and running for office at the local and state levels as well. So I know you won't ever quit. I hope you'll put your shoulder to the wheel and do everything you can to keep us moving forward in this election. And Valerie, kudos to you. You are transforming the face of politics across the country, and we thank you for it. And we're going to do everything we can to help you get there.
Thank you so much, Lori. Y'all can unmute if you want to just give a big round of applause. I'm so grateful to you for the time and for joining us from Chicago, no less. It's such an exciting week, and what a wonderful
Indeed.
time to have you with us. And thank you for your leadership and your incredible support. I want to also jump in, Roxanne, if I can, I see that we have Congresswoman McClellan with us, so we're going to pass it back to you in a moment, but I do want to take a minute to allow for Congressman McClellan to share her words with us this morning. She is someone who is such an incredibly strong and generous leader. She is a mom. She is a lawyer. She is a champion who sees how we can do better and who's willing to do the hard work to lead us there. She served in Virginia State House and successfully authored and carried the Voting Rights Act of Virginia, making Virginia the first state in the South to pass a Voting Rights Act. She almost became the nation's first Black woman governor, and we are going to get there. She ran for governor of Virginia, just an incredible campaign she put together, and Fund Her was proud to stand with her and endorse her in that race. And now the whole nation gets to benefit from her leadership, her commitment, and her vision as she serves in the House of Representatives. So please join me in welcoming Virginia Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan.
Well, thank you, Val, and thank you all for having me. Apologize for being late, but I am also coming to you from Chicago, and it's a little hectic here, but it's a joyful, I won't say chaos because that was the other convention, but there's definitely a lot going on and you don't want to miss anything. So you schedule stuff in really tight, but I am elated to be here. This is my 8th convention, my first here in Chicago as a page in 1996. And I never dreamed that I would be here as a member of Congress, as the first Black woman elected to Congress from Virginia, getting ready to watch who is going to be the first woman president, the first Black woman president, the first South Asian woman president, or South Asian president, period. I am so excited to watch her accept the nomination tonight that I've had goosebumps and like you see, I'm wearing my suffragette white. I'm worried my mascara is going to run before I ever get over to the United Center, but it's going to be tears of joy as opposed to the tears of horror I shed the day after the election in 2016, because I felt in my gut what was coming. And what was coming was chaos, division, anger, hatred, and a rolling back of our rights and freedoms. And we saw that when we became the first generation of our families to lose a constitutional right in our lifetime, many of you probably fought to get in place and build on to begin with. And I became someone who, after almost dying giving birth to my daughter, now see that she could have fewer options when she reaches childbearing years than I did about when, whether, and how to become a parent. But you as lawyers, I'm going to talk about something that means something to you that not everybody understands. Because of the Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump put in place, we all really ought to have a refund on our law school tuition checks, because everything we've learned, all the precedents we've learned are out the window. And what hasn't gotten enough attention is just how dangerous two Supreme Court cases were. The Chevron case, and I don't remember the name, the case overturning Chevron, and the case granting the president absolute immunity in criminal cases in his official capacity, which will be decided by judges that president appoints. Donald Trump has made clear that he will be a dictator on day one. He has been given the playbook to use in Project 2025, and he has been given the runway by the Supreme Court to implement it as he sees fit. But we have a candidate who will stop all of that. And she will do it with a smile. She will do it with joy. She will do it with compassion. She will do it with conviction. She will fight for us. And I'm here to ask you to fight for her and Coach Walls. I love calling him Coach Walls because he's like our biggest cheerleader too. And I like just continuing that football metaphor. But, you know, as lawyers, there's so much that you can do, and it's critically important that you do, because our freedoms are on the line, our democracies on the line, our futures on the line. Yes, you're going to vote. I know that. If you can knock on doors, make phone calls, donate, please do that. It's going to be a close race. I don't care what you believe. Remember, Hillary Clinton was up in the polls before Election Day, but she did not win. So make sure that you are getting people out to vote, that they're registering to vote, that they're checking their registration. Georgia's changing the rules. Florida is throwing people off of the voting rolls. Make sure, if you can volunteer to do election protection, please do. If you can volunteer to help people check their registration and know their rights, please do. Lawyers are going to be critically important to this election. And do it every day for the next 75 days. It's a sprint at this point, but so much is at stake. And I want you all to remember 2 dates. How did you feel? Remember how you felt the day after the election in 2016. And then remember how you felt on January 6th, 2021, when for the second time in American history, led by Donald Trump, people tried to take by force what they could not win, the ballot box. He has thrown the rule of law out the window. With your help, we will stop that from ever happening again. And we will do it by electing a ticket that we can be proud of, that we can be excited about, and we can be joyful about. You do your part. Don't stop there. Give us a Democratic House. Keep the Democratic Senate, because who certifies the election? The House. Who appoints the judges? The Senate. And set the policy aside. I know you're all there on the policy, but just remember those roles. You do your part. I'll do my part. And together we know we will hand this country over to someone who will build on the progress for our children, so that we don't have to keep fighting the same fights as our mothers, our grandmothers, and our great-grandmothers. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Thank you for being with us, for your incredible words, and for all the work that you continue to do on behalf of this country. Just so grateful for your time and your leadership. Thank you, Congresswoman. And now, Roxanne, I'm going to hand it back to you. I know we're going to jump into our panel. I want to allow you to introduce the phenomenal Deidre DeGier. Go ahead, Roxanne.
She is a phenomenal person and one of my very, very dear friends, one of my very favorite politicians in the world. She was born in Mississippi, moved to Oklahoma, and then in 2004 blessed us in Iowa by coming here to go to Drake University. And she says of Iowa that Iowa made me a grown woman. She also says, yeah, isn't that lovely? She also says, I was where I learned what freedom looked like. That was in 2004. Of course, it's now 2024, and things have changed in Iowa. But Iowa embraced Deidre, and Deidre embraced Iowa. She's a small business owner and a voting rights advocate who is driven by her passion to create equitable, inclusive, and accessible opportunities for all. And she has done a phenomenal job at that. She started her business in 2008 at the height of the Depression. And for over 15 years, her company has helped 1,000 small businesses and nonprofits in Iowa to thrive. The other side of her work, thank you, Valerie, and thank you all of you for acknowledging this phenomenal woman. The other side of her work leads her to enhance public participation in civic engagement. In 2018, this incredibly brave woman was the first person of color to run statewide in Iowa as Secretary of State. And then in 2022, which everyone acknowledged was probably a pretty hopeless race, she became the Democratic nominee for governor of the state of Iowa. And that allowed her to travel the state. She was the hardest working candidate we've ever had, next to me, perhaps. But she advocated for high quality public education, access to mental health care, and a countless number of other issues that matter to voters across Iowa. And one of the most important things she did for Iowa and for Democrats, she got to speak to people that would otherwise never have listened to her, and in some cases probably still couldn't hear her, but she expanded the base of the Democratic Party. You will now have the extraordinary opportunity to hear her yourself, my dear friend, Deidre DeJear.
Oh, thank you, Roxanne. You are so incredibly precious for that amazing introduction. I mean, you're just a soldier in your own right, and your commitment to still sticking around to not only help Iowans, but help women run all over this country is incredible. You could be minding your own business at this point in time, waiting for your Smucker's jar to come out because you're going to make it to 100, but you're not. And so thank you for staying committed to us. And thank you, Val, and all the friends of Fund Her. I would not be where I am in part due to the work that Fund Her is doing, which is why I couldn't say no when Val said, we need you to be here. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be at the DNC. How do we make it work? Well, then she said, well, Congresswoman McClellan's going to make it work. So I said, okay, all right, we're going to make this work. And so I'm so happy, so happy to be here. As you all know, I am in Chicago right now, and we are about to witness history being made at the DNC yet again. There is so much joy in the space. When Roxanne said, I found out what freedom looked like when I moved to Iowa, it was nothing short of the truth. I did find out what it looked like, but I've also been able to witness that freedom being dismantled right before my eyes. And from my vantage point, when people say we're not going back, that's how I felt when it came down to going back to Mississippi. It's a great state, but it needs a lot of work. Now our country is going backwards to that level, and we don't need that. That's why we have amazing candidates that are running, that Fund Her is supporting, so that our freedoms and our liberty and just in general, the pathway to life, liberty, and happiness is secured for each and every American, not only a select few. We have been giving some of these elected officials too much credit for doing just a little for a few people in our country. Now we need leadership who has an expanded vision of what success looks like, so that they're leading us into what freedom can look like, not only for us in the present, but for our children in the future. And so without further ado, I am so excited to introduce Pennsylvania State Representative, a woman, first-born generation Korean immigrants, a graduate of Boston College, and now a candidate for the 15th district in the Pennsylvania State Senate. I am so happy to welcome Patty Kim on the call. We also have an exceptional candidate, a state representative from Arizona, Lorena Austin. As a fifth-generation Arizonian, Lorena has strong roots in her community and proudly represents the 9th district in the state house. So I'm excited to have you on the call. I've got a few questions for you because these folks on the call, as they're spreading this message, they need to know a few things about you, because I know as soon as they get off this call, maybe even before, they're going to be texting their friends in PA and texting their friends in Arizona about what you're saying today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Austin to start with this question. Why are you running? What does this effort mean to you? Why are you choosing to do it? Wow us with your why, and tell us what Fund Her's engagement in your race can help you do and help you accomplish.
Thank you so much. First of all, it's an honor to be here. I won't go into too much of my story, but I was actually on my way to law school in 2022 before I was approached to run for a newly created district here in Arizona with no incumbents. And I literally had all of my applications ready to go. I was taking my LSAT. I had actually early applied to Stanford. They rejected me, but that's okay because I went on to bigger, better things. But I pulled all my law school applications when I found out that people were just moving to my district to have an easier pathway to the legislature here. And as a fifth generation Arizonan, 100 years, my family's lived in my district. I just thought someone who looked like our community, who was from our community, who didn't just decide to love it, should run. I had been working in the community college space as a higher ed employee, as student affairs. I was a student government advisor. I'd never even been involved in politics before, except for, my parents who were civil rights activists, were in the Chicano movement. My mother was involved with the Black Panthers up in the Bay Area. So I have really strong roots. My grandparents were farm workers. And I'm running again because there's so much that needs to be done in the state of Arizona. As you all know, this is one of the epic swing states we're going to see this year. And I don't want people to, be disheartened, because for the past 30 years, we have gotten to this point. We are 1 seat away from tying and 2 seats away from flipping in both chambers, in the Senate and the House. And in 2022, when I was elected as the first Chicane non-binary legislator in the country, the first ever in the state. And so when you tell me that people who look like us shouldn't be in these spaces, it's absolutely wrong. And people are showing us that they do want people that look like them, that understand how to stretch a dollar, that can understand what people are going through in our community. And so this endorsement means a lot because of everything that's been mentioned before. We cannot rely on the federal government anymore in our states. The state legislatures are now the front line of everything. And if you've heard of what happened in Arizona, the Republicans and the Arizona Supreme Court brought back the 1864 abortion ban, the civil era abortion ban, where you could get married when you were 10 years old, where there were no exceptions, where women were not allowed to make any decisions. I mean, the Civil War was still going on. You could still own people. And this is what Arizona decided to do earlier this year. So I'll keep it short because I know we have some more questions, but everything is on the line, and Fund Her is at such an important critical point of ensuring that the state legislatures and state offices are being looked at, because federal matters, absolutely, that matters for us here in Arizona, but state is what's going to actively make the change that our people need.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Representative Austin. I mean, if you heard it, folks, her why is that she's a stopgap for freedom. And in so many ways, Arizona is incredibly critical, and folks like her are going to help lead the charge to make sure we get the job done down there. And we thank you for your service. Representative Kim, wow us with your why and how Fund Her's support can help you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deidre, for moderating today's panel. And Valerie, a huge thank you for inviting me. I have been so empowered today by listening to the other women. I really needed this today, so thank you. I've served in the House of Representatives for 12 years, and just last session, we were able to get to the majority, a 1-member majority. And guys, it's been so much fun to be in the majority. Before I wanted to hit my head against the wall, Representative Austin, I feel your pain. nothing gets done, but we got hundreds of bills passed in the House, and these are good bills that will help support working families. I had been working on raising the minimum wage. You all, Pennsylvania still has a $7.25 minimum wage hourly rate. Ridiculous. And I've been pushing and pushing for the last 10 years for our low wage workers. We got it passed in the House. We all celebrated. And then no, it gets stuck in the state Senate where the Republicans are in the majority. Okay, we've passed bills that would help reduce gun violence, child care tax credits, insurance coverage for all birth control. Again, really good bills stuck in the Senate. We are 3 seats away from flipping the Senate, and my seat is the #1 targeted flip seat for Pennsylvania's state Senate. So, you know, I was having so much fun in the majority. I'm a team player. I'm going to go into the minority and see if we can flip and get all of our bills done. You might have heard my wonderful Governor Josh Shapiro yesterday at the DNC. He is supportive of all the bills that we've passed. We can get a trifecta and get really good things done. So the state Senate race, flipping 3 will be really important. Fund Her is helping me by raising my profile. Most women legislators, you know, we're not in the good old boys network. So we put our heads down and we are workhorses and we work, right? That's what we know how to do. I don't have time to raise my profile. I don't want to market myself. It's so uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about myself. So Fund Her has raised my profile, raised the profile of this race and how important it is. And then it's just having a big sister. I get hung up on during call time. People don't want to talk to me at the doors, but having Fund Her, who has my back, who is supportive, we're on the same page in terms of policy, is just there to be supportive, and it means so much to me. It's a big hug from big sisters, and I truly appreciate it. Hearing Roxanne and all that she's done. Lori, I'm petite too. We get underestimated, we get othered. Just being together is so therapeutic, and I can go on, but I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for being on here and for supporting folks like me and Representative Austin.
I love that. I love that, Representative Kim. Fund Her is like a big sister. Speaking of big sisters, there's a woman that's been in my life since 2017, since my Secretary of State's race. Her name is Kamala Harris. She goes by Vice President at this point in time, but you know, she's going to be at the top of our ticket, ladies. And I'm curious what that means for you, because some folks who are ill-informed, who are paying attention to data points that are not relative to the communities that we're connecting with, think that she's bad for the ticket. So talk to me about whether or not she's going to be able to help you in your respective states. And if so, how do you think that's going to happen? We'll start with you, Representative Kim.
Sorry about that. I think Kamala Harris is the only one who will beat Donald Trump. And I don't want to go over about why she's so wonderful. We've heard it throughout the speak at the DNC. What I know personally from in my house, where I have a 20-year-old daughter who was not interested in voting when it was Trump versus Biden. Her own mother is on the ticket and she didn't want to vote. Like, seriously, she was just so disengaged. She didn't care. She was so sick of politics. And then Kamala Harris is on the ticket. She's like, I'm going to vote for the first woman. This is the first time I get to vote for president. I'm going to vote for the first woman. So I know her and her friends. She's in college right now. They are excited and they are going to be the ones who tip the scales for Kamala Harris. But you guys, college students are not very organized. I had to sit with her and do the mail-in ballots with her. I'm going to have to send her a stamp. College students don't have stamps, guys. She doesn't have stamps. Why would they carry stamps? So we have to handhold the folks who are going to vote for Kamala Harris to, again, tip the scale to make sure that she becomes president of the United States. She is more than qualified. She is a beautiful contrast of the Donald. She will bring us together. She's strong. She's going to anyways, I can go on, but I know I'm just preaching to the choir. She's sparking interest, especially the young generation, and we just have to capture that.
Good, really good. What about you, Representative Austin?
In addition to all those things, I think what to me it truly represents is the fact that her experience is what will change this country. Her experience as a woman, but also the intersectionalities of the life that she's lived, and people are looking for that. Again, I think it's incredibly important to recognize that our individual experiences, especially as women, people of color who have diverse backgrounds, socioeconomic status, or different jobs, we're used to the multitasking. We're used to doing it all and then some. And that is what's going to propel us forward to heights that I don't think we have recognized yet. And so I'm really excited about that. But why I'm excited about, having this ticket is because, and this is, to be real, in a state like Arizona, where the Republicans just do whatever they want. I mean, if we have a Trump presidency again, they will just be emboldened to do whatever they want, and they will be able to, because no one's going to stop them. So it's so incredibly important that we are electing Kamala Harris and Walz, because they are the difference. And there's a huge demarcation line, right, between going into fascism and staying a democracy. Is our democracy perfect? No. And no one's saying that, but we can do better. We can always do better. I mean, that's the most patriotic thing we can do. So I'm excited for the things that we haven't even recognized, because women, are the, they say women are the neck, right? They twist the head from that movie, from Big Fat Greek Wedding. I always remember that, because it's absolutely true, regardless of what you think or not. Women are the most powerful beings on this earth, and they are the ones that bring life. They create everything, and they make sure things get done. So I'm just incredibly excited to see that. And you're right, Representative Kim, the way we've seen young people, I used to work in college, that was my job, and the way I've seen young people just really gravitate towards this positivity, right? They are communal. They care about one another. They are so intuitive, and they do things not for themselves, but for other people. And that's the message that they're seeing, and that's what they want to see. And so I'm so excited, because these young people are going to save us. And I think, our future President Harris is going to provide that pathway and help uplift them, that growth for them, to support them, not to gatekeep, but to ensure that they have the opportunity to be in her place one day.
Yeah. On that note, though, Representative Austin, I'm curious, with this new trajectory that could possibly be, given we put the work into it, what do you think this administration brings to at least one policy shift? Like, where do you see one specific policy shifting if they are elected and you all are elected?
For me, the Equality Act, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, and that's something that I think would have great reverberations, right? Not just for my community, but so many others, right? And when you uplift the most, underrepresented, that really will just increase access for everybody else. And I think that's our job, right, as legislators and elected officials, is to bridge this gap to people that have just been ignored. Here in my state, sometimes I butt heads with, people and reaching to these people that, deserve these services. They pay into these, are in taxes, and these are things that are allocated to them, and they should have these rights and protections. And with a president like that, we can truly see, I think, the bars raised for everybody, and the status quo will be something that is attainable, and something that is normal for our underrepresented group. So things like that is something I'm really excited about, because I think people don't realize how those federal policies, or just the ability to move the needle forward, can really impact their everyday lives, and allows us at the state level, right, to really bolster those as well.
Great answer. Great answer. What about you, Representative? What policy
Yeah,
should be?
it's hard to say when there'll be a diverse group of women, being added to our state general assemblies. But what I can tell you is that, and I know, again, everyone knows this here on this call, is that women tend to be better listeners, which means we can identify the problems faster and then find a solution. We tend to care. We don't care about who gets credit. We just want to see it get done, right? So we don't fight over, the name on the bill. And we also carry a lot of compassion. And we want to help the most underrepresented and the most vulnerable. So I know that with more women in the General Assembly, means we get just more done. We get more done. That means more to the working families. So I will leave it there, but man, you will see a difference. I've seen a difference with more women in the legislature and the House. It's more professional. We're more compassionate. We're more thoughtful leaders. And that's what we need in this country right now.
I love that. I love that. I was just with the Iowa delegation this morning, and had the honor of speaking with a vast group of individuals who are waking up every morning at 7 a.m. to meet for breakfast, and they're going to sleep at like 2 a.m. After this event. And I said to them today, and it was the first time I used it, I said, y'all, this is an all-American ticket. When we look at Kamala Harris and the work that she's done, how she's worked inside out in order to impact our community in a better way, not only in the criminal justice system, but representing us along the lines of the federal Senate and then going on to be vice president. When we look at Tim Walz and his efforts as an educator, the fact that he understands rural America, the fact that the top of the ticket represents 3 of the top 10 states as it relates to ag production in our country. I mean, we've got a vet on the ticket, we've got law on the ticket. There's just so many intersections, as you mentioned before, Representative Austin, so many that it is truly embodying who we are as Americans. You all add to the ticket when I say this is an all-American ticket fighting for freedom. And so I am so proud to have been on this call with you all. And I'm so proud of the work that you've invested already. And I just can't wait to see how you all grow. And for everyone who's listening, you don't get on these calls just to show up and just to be a number. You get on these calls to invest in the folks who are trying to do the best work in the hardest way in order to fight for freedom. And so I beg of you that you invest in some form or fashion into these candidates and also encourage at least 2 other people to do the same. Thank you, Val, for inviting me. Thank you to the infamous Roxanne Conlon, who knew I could not say no to her. I appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you all. I'm the cleanup act here. I know we're running out of time, and lawyers are, of course, we bill by the hour, so I will try to make it a little bit shorter. Want to thank all the panelists. I'm a recovering lawyer and a recovering politician. I served 14 years in the California legislature. I worked with Lori. Thank you for your help on our equal pay bill. It does come down to the states. It's really, really important that we elect people who are going to protect abortion rights. We know that the right wing wants to take it back to the states. We know that 1/3 of all women live now in states where they have no access to abortion rights. We know that if there's a way to send us back 100 years, they will try to do it. We need the strong voices of women. And as was pointed out, we're the workhorses, not the show horses. Our job, we know, is to get the job done. And as Doris Kearns Goodwin pointed out, that women govern differently. We are more collaborative and we have greater emotional intelligence, among so many other things that we are superior at. And particularly when you look at what the Republicans are running as leadership. Thank you again for being here. We have a raffle prize award to anyone who pledges any amount. Money is the mother's milk of politics. The good news is that you don't have to have the most, but you have to have enough. And it's really important if you can send a check. Fund Her has done a great job. They really know how to target their races. They've been very successful on how their money is used, getting great women elected, like the women that we've been talking with here. And, you know, we're all interconnected. You Iowans, my dad was a graduate of Drake University. Madam Kim, I went to Boston University Law School. You're a BC grad. I grew up 10 minutes in Newton, Massachusetts. I think we all are connected, and certainly we're connected because we are the caregivers. We are the ones that bring to the table a very different perspective. We are the ones that show compassion, empathy. We've got a great presidential candidate now who, by the way, 10 years ago this very day, got married in Santa Barbara, California, my hometown where I'm calling from. I mean, the connections are just incredible. And we need to make sure we have our voices in the legislature, whether it comes to equal pay, whether it comes to paid family leave, whether it comes to protecting abortion rights or childcare, one of the biggest issues that's a challenge to women today. We need to be helpful. We need to help each other. And we know why financial support is important. We also need to have women and lawyers on the election protection lines. This election is not just going to have to be won on election day. We have got work to do throughout each of the states. So please feel free use that power, use that law degree, use that bar card. Boy, we worked hard to get that. Let's make sure that we work hard to make sure we protect democracy. And with that, thank you all, and I'll pass it back to you, Val. Let's go get them. The future is ours.
Woo! Absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator. What a joy to have you with us this morning. Thank you to all of our speakers. I feel like we're almost in a circle, you know, kind of holding hands and cheering, because I know I'm going to be thinking of all of you tonight when I watch Kamala Harris's historic speech, and I cannot wait. So what a beautiful way to kick off the day. Thank you again. Let's go out there and let's win this. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.